Good morning, grade sixes. Welcome to your daily lesson of mathematics brought to you by WorksheetCloud.com. I hope you guys are really well today. Today forms part 2 of our examination preparation lesson. The previous lesson we went over the first 14 questions of a WorksheetCloud examination that can be found on their website. And I also put up that exam with the memo on the online activity sheet for Wednesday's lesson. So today we're going to go through the second half of the paper. I'm going to work through the questions on the Google Jamboard. If you missed the first lesson, then please make sure you go back to the previous examination preparation lesson 1, where I detail quite a few examination preparation techniques and some advice that you guys can follow on the day of the assessment, including assessment management during the actual test or exam. Okay guys, let's get on to question number 15. Question 15 gives us a graph, a bar graph of burgers sold during the last week. So on the y-axis we have number of burgers sold. So I'll just show you the y-axis. So the y-axis is the vertical axis, and then on the x-axis we've got days of the week, or they say weekdays. All right. So then they're going to ask us a few questions about this graph. So it's just a case of reading the information off the graph. So the first question is, on Monday, how many burgers were sold? So we can see that on Monday, it's more than 20 and less than 30. So if we look at the possible answer list, you can see that the only option there is going to be 25, the first option. And then the second part of the question says, on Thursday, how many burgers were sold? And that's just a case of having a look at Thursday and going across to the y-axis and noticing that it's in line with 60, and that will give us an answer of 60 burgers sold on Thursday. Okay, quite a nice easy one to start with. Then question 16, 848 divided by 42 equals what, remainder, what? Okay, so straight away we know there's a remainder, which is quite cool. And this 42 times 20 plus 3 equals 48. So they're kind of giving us an idea of the answer, okay? And if we go work it out, just to kind of remind you how we were doing a long division, we were changing it into a multiplication sum because we found it easier to multiply by friendly numbers, and friendly numbers ended in 0. So if I multiplied 42 by 10, I would get 420. If I multiplied it by 20, I'd get 840. So straight away, I should be able to identify that 848 divided by 42 is indeed going to give me 20. And there's your 20 I've just marked in green. And you can see that your remainder is going to be 8. Okay? So therefore, to answer this question, in the first place, 848 divided by 42 is equal to 20, remainder 8, okay? And this 42 multiplied by 20 plus 8 is going to give me 848. Checking strategy for question number 16 is pretty straightforward because they kind of give you the checking strategy in the question. So there's no reason to check any of your calculations here if they make sense. Okay, let's go on to question 17. So question 17, they give us a grid, and now they've labeled the x and the y axis. So they've asked you true or false. The soccer ball is located at 9 and 6, not 9,6, but 9 and 6. So we agreed that the first digit would be the x value, and that's going to be that value that horizontal value that I've marked, and the y value is going to be this vertical value that I've marked on the right-hand side. So your first number 9 is the football in line with 9, and yes it is. And your second value 6 is the football in line with 6, and yes it is. So therefore our answer is true. Okay, I hope you guys are still pausing when you see these questions, trying to work through them by yourself and then pressing play to see how you got on. It's the best way to learn how to do examination questions. First give it a shot yourself and then check the model answer. Question 18, please fill in the blanks. 20 is a multiple of 10. 15 is a multiple of 3. Okay, 3 times 5 is 15. And 8 is a multiple of 8. Remember, the first multiple of 8 is 8 times 1 is 8. Question 19. The mass of an empty bucket is 853 grams. When it is full of sand, the mass of the bucket is 8 times more than before. The mass of the full bucket will be how many kilograms? Okay, so here we've got 853 grams for one bucket. So now we need to multiply for 8 buckets to see the full mass of the bucket. So there are a number of ways that you can do this, and we've spoken at length about multiplication strategies, column method, doubling and halving. You're multiplying by 8, so you can double, then double again to multiply by 4, and then double again to multiply by 8. I'm going to do a method that I think a few of you will choose because you're probably quite used to it, and that's going to be the column method. So it's short multiplication. So 8 times 3 is 24. So I put the 4 down and I carry the 20 to the tens column. So now it's 8 times 5, which effectively is 8 multiplied by 50, which is 400. Plus that 20 is 420. So I put the 2 down and I carry the 4, which is 400. Then 8 multiplied by 8, which is effectively 8 multiplied by 800, which is 6,400, plus that additional 400 will be 6,800, and that's 6,800 grams. But it's important that we recognize that they've asked for the answer in kilograms. So the second part of the question is, can you convert grams to kilograms, and do you recognize that there's 1,000 grams in a kilogram? And to get from grams to kilograms, we divide by 1,000. So we need to divide this number by 1,000, and that's going to give us an answer of 6,824 kilograms. Okay, so it seems like quite a straightforward question, but they're asking you to do 3 different calculations: the short multiplication, and then the conversion of grams to kilograms, and the recognition that there are 1,000 grams in a kilogram. Okay, so 3 things, 3 marks. Question number 20. The number 19 is a prime number because it has 2 factors only. Okay, so remember that a prime number has only got 2 factors, the number 1 and the number 19 in this case. So 19 can only be divided by the number 1 and the number 19, which is itself. Okay, so all prime numbers must have a minimum of 2 factors and a maximum of 2 factors. Okay, right, let's move on to question 21. Umpo bought a pocket of oranges. 5/12 of the 60 oranges were damaged when she unpacked them. There were how many oranges that were damaged? So this is the fraction of an amount. So here we're looking at 5/12 of 60. And we should be able to recognize that 5/12 of 60 is also written as 5/12 multiplied by 60 over 1. Now you can just multiply the numerators. 5 times 60 and multiply the denominators. 12 times 1, and that's going to give us 300 over 12. And then, of course, we need to simplify. Okay, so we need to work out 300 divided by 12. Alternatively, we can divide both numbers by 2, and we'll get 150 over 6. Okay, both numbers are even again, so we can divide them by 2 again, and we'll get 75 over 3. And I'm hoping that we could recognize that 75 over 3 is equal to 25. So there were 25 oranges that were damaged. Okay, but another way to do this, and a way that I think is a little bit easier, is to simplify diagonally in the sum. Now this only applies for when you're multiplying fractions. So I can see that 12 and 60 are both even. I also know that the number 12 goes into itself once, and I know that the number 12 goes into 65 times. Now if I multiply the numerators, I've got 5 multiplied by 5, and the denominators, I've got 1 multiplied by 1, and you can see that that gives you an answer of 25 over 1, which is exactly the same as 25. So for me, the second option makes life a lot easier. I don't have to go simplify 300 over 12, and I can appreciate that for some of us 300 over 12 is really straightforward, but there will be a day when you multiply the numerators and you get a really large number, and you're going to find it difficult to divide it by the denominator. So get used to cancelling out diagonally. It's going to make your life that much easier. Okay, let's move on to question number 22. Question number 22 states, solve for D, and they give us an equation. And remember, it's called an equation because it's got an equal sign in it. So it's saying D plus 87 is 125. So for me to work out D, I need to go 125 minus 87, and that's going to give me an answer of 38. How do I check that? Well, I can go in the opposite direction and say 38 plus 87. Does that give me 125? Absolutely, it does. Okay, so there's your answer for question number 22. Question 23, temperature. Stacy's temperature is 36.7 degrees Celsius. It rises by 0.8 degrees Celsius. Her new temperature is now what? So this is the addition of decimals. Okay, can you recognize that 36.7 added to 0.8 should look like that? Okay, it's a really common error for students to put the 0 in a different column or the 8 in a different column. And it's really important that you guys understand that both 7 and 8 are tenths. Okay, so they must be in the exact same column. The other thing to recognize is that the decimals always line up with each other. All right, so now that we know that, we can go ahead and add. 7 plus 8 is 15. Carry the 1. 1 and 6 is 7. 3 and nothing is 3. So my answer is 37.5. And she would probably be spending the day at home in bed. Question number 24. The tennis ball is located at position 2 and 3. So if we had a look, and by now I know that we know that the first number 2 is on the x-axis, which is the horizontal one. So is it in line with 2? Yes, it is. Is it in line with 3 on the y-axis? Yes, it is. So again, our answer there is true. Don't be alarmed during an assessment if you encounter true and false questions and the majority of them are true or the majority of them are false. You've really got to back your judgment, believe in your abilities, and be confident with your answer. Okay, question number 25. The quotient of a division calculation is 42. The divisor is 25 and the remainder is 14. The dividend of this calculation is what? So we've spoken about this before. It was quite a while ago, so I'm not too sure if you'll remember. But in a division sum, the quotient is the answer. So our answer is going to be 42 remainder 14. The divisor is 25. And we are looking for what the dividend is. Okay? So we need to work in reverse. We can say 42 multiplied by 25 first. Okay? And I'm going to put that in brackets. And then we can add 14. So I've put it in brackets just so that we can identify that multiplication comes first. You don't have to put the brackets there because the multiplication would come first anyway, but I'm just trying to highlight that fact to you that we need to do that sum first. So 42 multiplied by 25, I would say 40 times 25. So 4 times 25 is 100. And then I know that I need to add that additional 0 from the 40 times 25. Then I know I can add 2 times 25, which is 50. So that gives me 1050. And then I must add the 14, and that's going to give me 1064. Question 26 is a data handling question. And all you need to do here is read off the graph. So it states Liam's class paid attention to how many bottles each student collected for their recycling project. How many bottles did Nasir collect? So you can see that Liam collected 70. Okay, there it is there. You can see that Danny collected the same amount, 70. Bridget did a great job and collected 100. And you can see Nasir wasn't that interested, and he decided to collect 20. Okay, so your answer there is option A, 20. Okay, let's move on to question number 27. Again, I'm going to remind you guys to press pause and work through these answers or work through these questions by yourself before pressing play to find out how you got on. Question 27 is a conversion question, and here they want you to convert 3 kiloliters and 5 liters will give us how many liters? Okay, so testing a few things here. You can see it's for 4 marks. So we need to convert, let's convert the kiloliters to liters first. So remember that kilo means 1,000. So 3 kiloliters is 3,000 liters. Okay. And 5 liters is obviously 5 liters. And if I add those together, I think we can all see that that's going to be 3,005 liters. And that is going to be option D for your answer. Okay, so do you realize that there are 1,000 liters in a kiloliter? Can you multiply a number by 1,000, recognize that you need to add the 5 liters, put them together, and you get 3,005 liters as your answer. Okay, question number 28. True or false? 16 over 3 equals 5 1/3. So to check if this is correct, we know that 16 over 3 is the same as 16 divided by 3. So how many times does 3 go into 16? That's 5 times. 5 times 3 is 15. There's 1 left over, and I stick to my original denominator. So that question is therefore true. Question number 29 is another multiple choice question. Which of these numbers are exactly divisible by 9? Okay, so here this is all about divisibility rules, which we've covered in a lesson before. I'm not going to have time to cover all of them right now, all the divisibility rules. So please go back and have a look at that division lesson along with the activity and memo that is there for you to consolidate that information. The general rule, or the rule for divisibility of 9, is if the individual numerals of the number add up to a number that can be divided by 9, then the original number is divisible by 9. So quite a mouthful. So what that means is, if I look at 99, for example, and I add 9 plus 9, and that gives me 18. 18 can be divided by 2, so therefore 18 can be divided by 9 twice, so therefore 99 is divisible by 9. Okay, so we know 99 is divisible by 9. 109, if I take the numbers from 109 and I go 1 plus 0 plus 9, that gives me 10. 10 cannot be divided by 9, so therefore 109 is not divisible by 9, so we can take that one out. Let's look at 180. If I add up 1, 8, and 0, I get 9. 9 can be divided by 9 once, so we know that 180 is an option. We can then go look at 504. All right, if I take 5 and 4 and I add them together, I get 9. 9 can be divided by 9, so 504 is definitely an option. And then 801, if I add 8, 0, and 1 together, I get 9. 9 can be divided by 9, so 801 is also an option. So my answer is 99, 180, 504, and 801, and that's going to give you option D. Okay, so really important for you to know your divisibility rules. Otherwise, you would have been doing short division sums for at least 5, 6, maybe 7 minutes. Okay, and you don't want to be wasting that time when you get to the end of a question paper and you've still got a couple questions to go. You don't want to be stressing out over time. So make sure you use those strategies that we've taught you to make processes and calculations a little bit easier, more manageable, and slightly quicker for you to do, so that you don't lose out on any time that you need during your assessment. Okay, question 30. The answer to the division sum 4,852 divided by 1,000 is equal to which option? So here, what we are trying to test is, do you understand how a number gets smaller depending on the base 10 that it's divided by? So remember, if it's divided by 10, it gets 1 place smaller. Divided by 100, 2 places smaller. Divided by 1,000, 3 places smaller. So 4,852 divided by 1,000 is going to give you option B, 4,852. Grade 6s, that brings us to the end of our part 2 in examination preparation. I would really encourage you to go back over that exam paper, have a look at the memo, make sure you understand areas that you might not have understood while I was going through it. Please feel free to send me questions, queries, or feedback at grade6@worksheetcloud.com. Really have a great rest of the week, and I look forward to seeing you at our next lesson. All the best. Cheers.